Hello there. I recently watched Last of the Mohicans, the 1990s version with Daniel Day-Lewis and Russell Means. I want to talk about a bit of movie weirdness that I noticed in the film. First off, a bit of a micro review because I know some people are going to bug me for it. I was not impressed with this film. The cinematography is great, the acting is pretty good, but the pacing is not great, and a lot of the dramatic scenes didn't work for me. What I really want to talk about is a little bit of movie weirdness that I noticed in the film. So, throughout the film, the protagonists in the film, they're allied with the British during the 7 Years' War, French and Indian War. So, one of the baddie factions are the Hurons. The primary antagonist is a Huron. And throughout the course of this film, something like 50 Hurons are killed. I went back through it and did a count, but I've forgotten what it was. It was something like 50, 52, something like that. Now, this is one of those movie things that we just sort of take for granted. We don't think about it. I watch a World War II action movie, and our protagonists are commandos sneaking into an artillery base in the Mediterranean or whatever, and things go bad, and it goes loud, and they start blowing away these Nazis with their machine guns. And they end up killing something like 50 Nazis, let's say. And we think nothing of that. We might say, oh, well, our protagonist's shooting skills are exaggerated, and the Nazis, they're just being nameless goons who are just supposed to die, whatever. It's a movie convention, we take it for granted. Part of the reason we take it for granted is that the German army was big enough that these numbers are not statistically significant. I think Germany's population before the war was something like, 65, 70 million or something like that, some obscenely large number. They're going to have an army of millions. And we can imagine 50 German soldiers disappearing on some commando mission and never being reported or whatever, right? There's a lot of leeway to play around with because the numbers are so large, okay? Now, the Huron population, at the start of the 7 Years' War, the French and Indian War, the real-life Huron population, it was about 1,300, right? Somewhere in that ballpark. And we know approximately how many adult men there were among the Hurons because colonial officials, they cared about how many adult men their Indian allies had because that's how much military support they can rely on. So we know that there was about 300 at the start of the 7 Years' War, French and Indian War. The Hurons who are killed in this, on screen, in this movie, this represents 1/6 of all adult men who were alive at the start of the French and Indian War. 1/6. So this is the equivalent of, you got your German World War II movie, and it shows 3 million Germans being killed, right? It's not just some cutaway like the Death Star where, oh, here's a bunch of people getting blown up. No, it shows every single one of them. It shows 3 million Germans getting gunned down. That is the equivalent population effect that Last of the Mohicans depicts. And there's another little bit of uncanniness because, so I went and looked this up, and the total Hurons killed during the war is estimated at about 60. Right? So in real life, about 60 Hurons died during the 7 Years' War. So this movie, it shows basically all of the casualties that the Hurons sustained throughout the whole 7 years, right, compressed into 2 hours of film. Because the population is so small, there's nowhere for these numbers to hide. There's nowhere for you to hide these numbers. There's no sort of leeway. That's even more weirdness. Right? And noticing this had a detrimental impact on my suspension of disbelief, which is possibly why I didn't really get along with this movie quite so well. Because it's just sort of, it's absurd to think about it in those kind of terms. Right? Canada in World War I lost something like 60,000 people, right? And you make a film that depicts the deaths of 50,000 of them. That's weird. Anyway, I don't have much of a thesis beyond that. So it's just a bit of weirdness that I noticed in the film and I thought would be worth bringing up. And I hope you found this weirdness interesting as well. Thank you.